For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, here making a brand new video for you today. I wanted to go over a collection I have of CDs that I've been listening to recently, as per usual. This is a pretty unique stack. I'm hoping to diversify the music more and give people recommendations, because that's honestly the reason I love metal YouTube. I've learned so much about so many different bands that I would have never discovered on my own, honestly, so that's kind of the give back I want to do with this channel, and the reason I do so many of these show and tell videos. I like to see what other people are listening to too, so please let me know in the comments if you know of any of these, if there's any recommendations you have for things that are similar to this, and let me know if you've maybe heard these but you don't like these, or if you love them and you have a recommendation of something maybe completely off the beaten path, something I don't talk about much, maybe a subgenre of metal I don't usually address. That'd be cool too, because again, I love learning about new music. Ever since I discovered this channel that I'm on now, and then like Justin Horville's channel and a few other people, I've literally picked up over 1,000 pieces of physical media. So that's starting in 2019 up till now. So I love collecting new music and learning about new music, which is why I talk about the music I know now. So again, hopefully people who don't know these bands check them out based on my recommendations. First, we have probably my favorite, or one of my favorite albums of last year, from a band I recently discovered kind of by accident. It was I think it was maybe a video that was recommended to me based on YouTube videos I was watching, but it's the band Mayhemic with Toba. It's their album last year. I have the CD and LP. They're from South America. It's that South American sort of combination, I guess, sort of like the Sarcophago type stuff, where it's a little bit of death, a little bit of thrash, maybe a little bit of black. But these guys are fantastic. They have a few releases now. I have most of them on CD and LP, but I believe this is probably, again, pretty close to one of my favorites from last year, other than definitely Destructor from Australia. If you don't know Mayhemic and you love that South American sound, definitely pick them up. You might not be able to get some of the releases right now on some of the distros. They might be sold out, I'm not positive, but definitely look on Discogs if you haven't seen them, and then maybe your local record store. But Mayhemic's a great newer band if you love the South American sound. Next, we have a worship band or cover band, whatever you want to call it, but this band is specifically going after that Mortician sound with Massacred. So if you know anything about Mortician, you definitely have heard of this band. They are, in a sense, competing with Fluids, I guess, for who can sound most like Mortician. I definitely disagree that Fluids sounds that much like them. I think Fluids honestly sucks. I think the recent album, I forget what it was called, something Reduced, with the really skinny person on the front, I think that album absolutely sucked. They have rap music out now. They also have like weird techno beat drum music on one of their splits. The only thing I own by Fluids that I've actually listened to on my own, I mean, I've listened to their music, but it was this one of the splits they did with Nunslaughter. That was fine. I didn't really care for it. I kind of had it for the Nunslaughter part. But really, if you want Mortician worship, this is where you should be heading. This is a compilation, 25 songs, which of course is probably 30 minutes or something, because it's Mortician worship, but it's got the samples and everything. So in the Mortician worship style of music, this is what I would go with. Fluids to me absolutely sucks. I don't care about the music. If you like it, fine, it's great, whatever, but I don't personally like it, so don't fucking recommend me Fluids, okay? I don't like it. Next, we have a early 90s gore grind band, definitely a Carcass worship band that not a ton of people talk about, for the Czech Republic, that did a few albums in the early 90s. I showed off their picture disc, and then I think they just kind of disappeared, but it's Pathologist. So if you listen to bands like General Surgery, Dead Infection, Carcass, and you don't know these guys, check them out. It's not the greatest Carcass worship, but it's really good, I would say, especially if you haven't heard it. If you've heard a ton of Carcass worship, then you don't necessarily need this band, even though they're older. I believe this release is 93. It doesn't really make it worth checking out just because it's Carcass worship, but I do enjoy it. I mean, there's plenty of bands that are in that style that I would say are ones I go to check out. It's more of my cup, like, it's what I enjoy. So if it's a black metal band out there and you're like, oh, you would love this, it sounds just like I don't know, Mayhem or something, I'm not going to really necessarily check it out. But I like gore grind. I can't get enough of it, so this was an easy choice for me to pick up. And next we have a early 90s death metal classic with the band Cancer to the Gory End. If you're familiar with death metal beyond just Cannibal Corpse and Deicide, you should already know who this is. This is a great album. This is the only thing I own by them, but it's awesome. And it's got the cover that's an homage to the second Romero zombie movie. I always forget. I think it's Day of the Dead. I always forget my Dead movies because I'm not the biggest horror movie fan, but it's a scene from someone getting their head macheted in. So, great album. The only thing I own by them, as far as I know, some of the newer stuff is kind of like newer Blood Feast, where didn't really care to check it out because it's not that great, but definitely check out this if you don't own it already. Now, when it comes to black metal, I do like, and yes, this is of course a J-Dog recommendation. Obviously, if you would see it, you'll know, but I do own all 3 albums by the band, and on CD and LP, it's on Lord. So this is their first album, Schwarzwald, I believe. Not really pronouncing that right. This one I like, but I would say is my least favorite of the 3, but that barely means anything. I think all 3 are great. I, again, have the CDs and LPs. Definitely worth checking out if you like black metal. If you know anything about this channel and you know where my recommendations come from, like I just said, you probably have already heard this. You probably already own this. I don't think my recommendation is going to make any difference, but I feel like copies are still available. And I think when Hell's Headbangers does their sales, this is one of the ones that they were trying to move copies of, so you could probably buy it really cheap. And if you're not a big vinyl person, or if you don't know if you're going to like it or not, you could probably pick up all 3 CDs for like 15 bucks. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure. And next we have another obvious one, Carnage Dark Recollections, and I do apologize if I've shown this one off before already. At this point, because I'm making a video every day, there's a chance you might see some repeats. Sometimes I just have multiple things in my car that I've listened to recently and I forget if I've shown it off or not. But this is an obvious one, Carnage Dark Recollections. Unless you're Jeff Walker of Carcass, chances are you like this. This is good, even though he put it out on his label, but you know, that's a story for J-Dog to tell, because he already did. And speaking of Carcass, hey, look at that, Symphonies of Sickness. My favorite album. I only really like the first 2. I don't really give a shit about anything after. Fun fact, in high school, the first record I ever listened to by them was, I think it was Heartwork, and I absolutely hated it. And this was before I knew anything about Carcass. This was just listening to it as a band, regardless of the history of the band being gore grind and then being more death metal and then being melodic death. I just thought it was dumb. I thought the vocals were kind of snarly and dumb and just didn't sound very appealing to me. So I'm glad I know, obviously now, that Carcass started out this way, and that's why I like the first 2 releases and a lot of the worship bands, as I showed before. So that's it for today. Let me know in the comments, like what I said before, if any of these bands appeal to you, if you've heard of any of them, if any of them are your favorites, if you hate them, let me know in the comments too. And if there's anything that you want to recommend based on the CDs I showed, please let me know. I do look at the comments.